Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to Curiositas Chronicles podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership in today's world. I'm your host Rohit, and in this episode, we are diving into a topic that lights up the room literally: humor. It's a secret sauce that can transform any meeting from mundane to memorable. Joining us today is a multi talented powerhouse, an educational entrepreneur, certified ICF executive coach, sales facilitator, and a humor activist. With a rich background in weaving laughter with learning and leadership, Koushik brings a fresh perspective on how humor can shape positive and productive work environments. Before we dive in, I would like to thank Abhyuda Global Coach Circle, who are shaping world leadership through professional coaching. If you are looking to learn new skills in professional coaching and enhance your leadership skills, please get in touch with Abhyuda and check out their upcoming programs. So, without further ado, get ready for an enlightening conversation that promises insights and welcome Koushik. Let's make leadership a laughing matter.
Hey Rohit, good afternoon.
Afternoon. How are you doing, Koushik?
Absolutely great. And I just realized that laughter is the best medicine. Any doubts?
No, no, no. I totally agree. Laughter is the bed medicine. Yeah.
So
Uh,
today we are going to laugh about and possibly not talk about, how humor is a secret conversational weapon in the meeting room and how anyone and everyone can harness it. So, I have had three versions of my life.
mm,
A student version, which took me to the E school and the B school. E stands for engineering. uh, 2 decades. And then the next version was an employee, thanks to an Indian IT major that taught me sales, business, and leadership. Again, couple of decades. And then as an entrepreneur that taught me to fail fast,
mm.
be fearless, think laterally, and become an executive coach, sales facilitator, and career guide. 1 decade. But in this entire journey, I have embraced fun in my daily lives and tried my best to ignite meetings with laughter. Most often, people giggled. On many occasions, they broke
Mm.
into high decibel laughter, and there were moments when there were pin drop silence. So, in the process, a belief that grew stronger was, we all want meaning in our lives. And having a sense of humor doesn't just punctuate and offset that seriousness. I think it allows the meaning to come through. And I realized that humor is serious business
Mm.
and it's vastly underleveraged in most workplaces today, including the meeting rooms. Yeah, Rohit.
Yeah. I'm
So, what
looking
are we going
forward
to
to
talk about?
this. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this actually. And the humor in the meeting room, because as leaders we always goes into these tense meetings, the stakeholders pressure and everything. I wanted to know, how does this humor actually contribute to the culture of creativity and innovation, especially during meetings?
Okay. So, fear is the greatest killer of creativity. I think all of us have
Yeah.
realized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And humor is, if not the most effective tool, which I believe, but at least a very important tool I have found for insulating that feeling of fear. You humor will chase the fear from the system. So people think more freely, they speak more openly, and they entertain new scenarios and approaches. So, especially if you consider today's world where there's a rapidly transforming global economy and the world of AI in today's workplace, right brain creativity, lateral thinking, they are at a premium. Possibly the AI will take some time to learn and do a great job around it.
Mm.
But remember your toddler, the sons that you just sent out.
Mm.
They fearlessly choose the room walls as their best artistic canvas,
Yeah.
and I'm sure. And
Yeah.
in today's context, the winners will likely be those who can put some crayon art on the walls of the meeting room.
Mm.
And that's my firm belief.
Mm. Okay. That reminded me, like, visualization, right? I mean, in coaching as well, visualization does help.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioning that the crayons, the sketches, all those, I think we do on the wall. we actually create visualization, which helps innovation,
That's
which helps
true.
thinking differently.
And there's no fear that holds us, so it's
Mm,
it's unbridled, and
mm,
that's where I can pick up the crayon and
mm,
choose the canvas, and
mm,
that's expression unlimited, and that's what creativity can be in the meeting room. And when that unfurls, there's magic.
mm. So how does this humor comes into this?
So it definitely helps in reducing the stress and
Mm,
anxiety among the team members.
mm,
So typically you get inside a meeting room, there is an agenda, or at times you are just pulled inside a meeting, not knowing what the agenda is. There is this piece of what's going to happen, what's going to be discussed. Uh, Often you leave important tasks in hand, and you are fending off for a meeting just because you need to show up, and it's good to be showing up.
mm,
So, how humor helps in reducing stress and anxiety? So, the relationship between safety and work performance is robust, right? Whenever we have psychological safety, and as coaches,
yeah,
we talk a lot about it.
yeah.
The very belief that you won't be punished or ridiculed when you make a mistake during a meeting, I think
Mm,
that belief reduces the stress and anxiety, makes us more open minded, more
yeah.
motivated, and communicate with respectful candor. And when we feel safe enough to make light of our mistakes, in other words, it gives us the courage to take on those bigger and bolder risks of expressing myself, putting my point of view, maybe I mean, with fun and frolic, critique somebody else's point of view also, without the fear of getting judged, penalized, and crucified. So when you feel safe and you feel like you are being led through this term called levity, opposed to gravity, when we are being led through levity versus fear, you're much more keen to take chances to put your point of view. And you're more likely to say and try things without worrying about being ridiculed, without being ostracized,
Mm,
and all those negative emotions that holds you back in meeting rooms. And you are more willing to innovate, to push new ideas, uh, and to push against old ideas. And that sort of loops back to the creativity and innovation, the first question that
mm,
you asked.
mm,
uh, and that's where, I mean, so reduced stress, anxiety, more openness. uh, I open myself up, and this little dose of humor has helped me to completely release the right chemicals in my body, and hence I'm back into my best creative and innovative self.
mm. Okay.
And even this whole anticipation of laughing, there's a lot of science behind, and
Mm,
I'm not a doctor, but I was just looking at some researches. It says that it has just the anticipation of laughing has shown that cortisols, they reduce by 80%.
mm.
Sorry, cortisol, the stress wall, the guy
Stress
who's
one.
responsible
Yeah.
for stress. Yeah, they reduce by 40%, and there is a chemical called epinephrine, which is that fight or flight wala thing.
Mm-hmm.
That reduces by 80%, even the anticipation that there's going to be laughter in the meeting room. So that
Mm,
makes us feel safer, calmer, less stressed. And when we are less stressed, we do better work. So to sum it up, I'll say humor helps us to lean forward as a participant
mm-hmm.
and move forward as a contributor during meetings. And personally, I've seen these are two things: disengagement and leaving the meeting with your point of view. There's no movement that happens post the meeting. These are two huge roadblocks of having productive meetings.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm quite curious here because we talk about psychological safety, like inclusion and contribution safety is very important in reaching that psychological safe space. And in your leadership journey, how this humor actually helped you to become a leader you are today?
So one part of it is, I think leadership is fulcrumed or anchored around the whole essence of trust, right? Whole essence of building relationships. Because as a leader, maybe I need to know a bit of the way, I need to
Mm-hmm.
be showing the way, and I need to be walking along in the way, right? So, building relationships, building trust are absolute critical elements of leadership. Now, what humor does in meeting rooms, and let's say there's a change in plan that is being discussed, right? I come from a sales background, and maybe I'll say that there's a sales plan that was agreed upon, and suddenly the management comes and says that, hey, you guys are doing good and you need to step up the pedal a little more. So there is a little more aspirational plan that now you have to take your team through. And there are some new members in the team also who is now made a stakeholder to contribute to this exaggerated plan. So what humor can help is help building this quick rapport.
Mm.
And since most humors are authentic,
Mm.
I mean, you don't crack a nasty joke and that's not a humor.
Yeah.
So authentic humors help in building quick rapport. And on the other side, the person who sort of exercises humor, he or she is seen as somebody who's confident, who's competent, and at the same time empathic uh, in the meeting room. When you crack a humor or crack a joke, you have this little power and influence as a leverage. And this is a very healthy leverage. So with that rapport, you build relationship, and this relationship then reinforces the foundation of trust.
Mm.
So when you create moments of giggles in the room, the energy also rubs on each other. The uninitiated, if I may call, starts speaking out, putting her point of view, and suddenly there is, in coaching parlance, there's an equal partnership in the room. There's a level playing field for every participant in the room, no matter your vintage, no matter your skills or your designations. In a way, Neeraj Chopra and Chris Rock, they have the same job. You know why?
Mm.
So laughter releases many of the same neurochemicals as a good workout. So when Neeraj exercises versus when Chris Rock makes us laugh, it's a similar neurochemicals.
Mm.
And so these are the ones which sort of prime us for greater personal connection and resilience. And then this instant brain cocktail, if I may call it, that makes it a healthy intoxication. I'll use the word healthy intoxication
Mm.
because you have dopamine, which sort of dopes happiness, if I may say it. So, oxytocin, which drives more trust. And then I said cortisol, that lowers the stress. And then endorphin, which makes it euphoric. And this happens, God's gift to mankind, can happen with anybody in the moment when there's laughter and there's humor in the room. So
Mm.
all of this creates a charm, and that disarms us or frees us from whatever you may call the limiting belief or the gestures that holds us back in the meeting rooms. So humor charms, humor also disarms, because it's as good as those same neurochemicals, which I mean, you did not go and choose the workouts that Neeraj does, but you can just be a Chris Rock, or at least have the mindset of doing so, and you can still achieve. And that together creates a very supportive chemical equilibrium, which builds that elements of trust. And based on the foundation of trust, because of accelerated rapport and very strong relationship, the foundation gets stronger. And hence, when you communicate a crucial message, a shared vision, it sinks in far more easily, or it gets discussed far more openly and authentically than ever.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, so that's quite informative, actually, quite profound what you just said, especially for me, who probably never use humor in the meeting, sometime, but not every time. But again, I wanted
Mhm.
to understand what is the definition of, because you mentioned like it's not like creating a joke for the sake of a joke, and what is the humor, the definition for you? What is the humor?
So, typically, what's a humor piece? It's not being funny, right?
Mm.
Uh, it is about uh, communicating something in a way which is a little less trodden path, in the sense which brings in an element of surprise.
Mm.
It sort of brings in, yeah, definitely it's funny because it's true. So let's say in the meeting room, if I go and say, I remember I entered the meeting room once in a double-sided wind cheater, and it was a cool Delhi morning. And I remember to have the working notes or the meeting notes tucked in one of the pockets. But before I came in the room, I actually there was a red side up, and then I actually decided to have the black side up to be more executive looking. Now, what I'm doing is I'm actually sharing something that has happened, and it's true. And then I entered this meeting room, and everything was going absolutely right. My bosses, for a change, were nodding to the most not so most obvious things. But then there was a point, a question was asked, and I had to go and retrieve my meeting notes. And then the fun happens. I try to retrieve it, and I feel that it's there in my pocket, but I struggle to do that. And it took me about 30 seconds to realize that it's in the inside pocket because now I have turned the wind cheater the other way down. And so in front of this room, I am like, making my way, almost tripping myself to
Mm.
get that meeting notes and the data point that was so important. And in spite of all the seriousness, there was laughter. And somebody wrote a punchline and said, tuck before you zip. So, now what happened in this process is it's something that I'm sharing that's true, right? There was this little element of surprise
Mm.
and maybe a little element of misdirection because something in the pocket will come out straight from the pocket, so that is the sense of direction. But then maybe I used, and because it happened, so it was so very fluently coming from me that I used something like a misdirection. And it's something like we all have seen people tip on a banana peel, right? It's
Mm.
hurting.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of us as friends also, and even now, there are people who will smile it out,
Mm.
the onlookers, right? Because as an adult walking on a pathway, you're not supposed to creep down, and the unexpected thing happens, and that's when you fall. Now, the person who falls may be feeling it nasty, but for the other person, it's an element of surprise, and they start laughing. And that's how I think the chemicals are wired together, right? So anything that is incongruous, anything that is not expected but actually happened, uh, you can take things by making them pleasantly surprised.
Mm.
And then you can obviously, as I said in my part of the story, maybe I used a little bit of exaggeration, right? I remember in one of the meeting rooms, uh, like I was the boss inside the room, and there's somebody showing and say, hey, Kaushik, this looks to be the number. And that guy's typically a very conservative, sales forecaster. And I said, wonderful. I think he did really, really warrants an applause. Guys, can we have a great applause for Samrat? And everybody applauds and says, Samrat, one thing that I must really make a note, at this rate, we will achieve our goal in 3 years. So are
Mm.
you ensuring job security? And then everybody giggled out, right? Now that was a little bit of an exaggeration, little taking the untrodden path without actually belittling his piece. And then you become the serious boss and say, hey, can you just rework and revise and make it a much more aggressive plan, guys? You can do it, man. Go and do it, right?
Mm.
So it was a sandwich of some conversation which lightened up, and I'm sure there were a lot of fingers that were like also repositioning their plan, those conservative guys, because they know that they may also have a similar comment to be sort of encountering on that. So you use this exaggeration, use some bit of contrast, sometimes analogy, like 3 year plan was an analogy sort of a thing. And again, I'm not a stand-up comedian, but I think anybody who practices humor professionally can be a stand-up comedian. And I'd love to do more researches about them, but I'm told a little bit here and there. And I have seen also
Mm.
stand-up comedy is becoming a very much acceptable career option and a really
Yeah.
worthy one. They use all these pieces of being funny, being true, sort of taking people by the awkward surprise, a sense of walking somewhere the path and then suddenly turning and doing a misdirection, and all that piece of contrast, analogy, and all those elements. So, so that is where I think it is a skill that can be practiced, and if it is like there are today, I'm sure this is decoded to a large extent, and of course there are different styles, and I'm sure there will be different stand-up comedians with different styles. uh, so you can align to the style that you are one that naturally flows with you. So
Mm.
that's where I'm not sure whether I answered your question, but I mean, if what I heard from you was like, how do you really make this happen?
Mm.
What could be a strategy, or what could be a resource that can make it happen?
Yeah.
Now, there is, in this context also, there are some myths, if I may say. When I tell people, hey, why don't you come with a little bit, be a little more funny here. Life
Mm.
is not that flat.
Yeah.
uh, they'll say, my joke will fall flat. There'll be awkward silence. I may offend someone. So there is this little failure wala myth, right? Then there are some people who say, oh no, no, Kaushik, you have this little gift of the gap. So I am not that funny enough. So that being funny wala myth. Somebody will say, I'm not born with it. It comes so naturally for some people, right? There are other pieces. I've even said, have worked with bosses whom I've tried to sort of influence with humor, and they'll become more serious and say, a humor simply has no place. I mean, serious work. We are in serious business, so that myth is there also. So from fighting against those myths, you can choose your style, and you can be subtle on one side of the delivery, you can be expressive on the other side of the delivery. And I'm sure you have seen a lot of stand-up comedies, or at least learned about them. You'll see there is a content piece in the delivery, and there is a delivery piece, right?
Mm.
So the content can be sometimes very aggressive, sometimes it borderlines between being sane and being vulgar also, in that way, right? So there's the content can be aggressive on one side, it can be a little more cooperative or affiliative or soft on the other side. Similarly, the delivery could be very expressive. You have physical movements while doing this, and I'm sure you have seen some of those meeting room guys who really
Yeah.
really move all along the room. Or the other side, there is this subtle piece. There's this little one line punch. There's this little bit. There's just a smile. There's a pause of a silence, that can make it. So I think we all love quadrants between this expressive and subtle on one axis, and maybe aggressive and, I will say, affiliative or soft on the other side of the axis. You can choose your style, right?
Mm.
If you're a sniper, you can be aggressive and subtle, right? I said, hey, it's a 3-year plan or a 1-year plan. No, that's like actually hitting below the belt in a very subtle way. But I was aggressive, not from my gesture and posture, but maybe my intonation, right? Yet it was safe. Yet people laughed out, and the person also took it, as a feedback that now I can be very aggressive and very expressive, and that is like most stand-up comedians will be doing, right? But the style that I subscribe most is where I will use it soft. I'll crack a lot of my jokes from my own archive. And I think there's a term called self-depreciating jokes, where you say, it has happened with you, and you're
Yeah.
actually not depreciating your stocks, huh? You're actually becoming more demonstrating more vulnerability, if I may say, right?
Mm.
and at the same time being expressive. So maybe that's a little magnet piece, because people then are engaged with what you want to say, that part of it. So there could be multiple styles. One can just choose and be the natural piece. But uh, you know it is like it is not like it is inventing something from thin air, a magician, you pull it from there. It's just about observations, noticing the oddities, the absurdities in the world around you, and identifying them in an unexpected manner, and creating that story.
Mm.
Rohit,
No,
I think I
brilliant.
spoke a little more on this.
No, no, it's fine. I was listening. Because you mentioned in the meeting rooms and all cracking a joke. I think earlier you mentioned about trust and relationship within the team. I think the more trust, the more less psychological safety you have in the team, you're more likely to take this as a feedback, or create humor in the meeting or in the in the team environments, which helps as a team to sometimes you have a like a not a serious thing, but have a really tense, conflict or something, and then sometime, and it's a healthy conflict, and sometimes a touch bit of humor can help break that ice, and then, start talking more in the sense of solution focus rather than blame game. So
Absolutely,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So, what advice would you give to the leaders who are hesitant to basically use this humor in the meetings due to, I mean, fear of like appearing unprofessional, or they're thinking something else?
Yeah. Okay. So I really like this edit. Some facilitator once told me, especially during training rooms, and said, Kaushik, adults are children in big bodies. So they are playful with their heart,
Yeah.
right? So leaders are also kids. And as kids we laugh all the time, right? I mean,
Mm.
you observe a kid, there's some research which says the average 4-year guy will laugh, I think, as many as 300 times per day. And by the time you are 40-year-old, you laugh 300 times every 2.5 months, so because you get conditioned and
Yeah.
you're getting judged and all that. So as we grow up, we enter the workforce, and suddenly things become serious and important people. So we trade our laughter for ties and pants and suits, right? So we lose levity entirely in those slide decks and mind-numbing, conference calls and all that stuff. A sense of play is gone. Uh, Now, this is what, my only advice to the leaders will be: just bring up the kid inside you. Uh, if we leave it at the door, then we have only certain things to lose, right? Now, it is a sense of humor which is what is making us human, right? uh, Deeply connecting, empowering thing. So if we are not deploying it, it you are losing on making light of serious things, which means you are unable to move forward in spite of those serious things. And that's what I guess: you are not able to walk the way as a leader along with them. You may know the way, you may show the way, but they are not walking along. And when you refuse to take things so seriously, obviously, we spoke about the stress standing in the way of serious work. So we create much more meaningful connections, and that's where so the law of, I will say, the levity or seriousness, that must supersede the law of gravity. I mean, the playfulness, that should be superseding the law of gravity. That
Mm.
as a boss, I need to behave like this. I have to hold my grain, and no, I mean, I did not be smiling it out. And so they are not at odds. This gravity and levity stuff, they are not at odds. They actually can and coexist. And the moment I think we sort of appreciate this, first make it feeling that this is all part of being professional, all right? And by balancing gravity with levity and levity with gravity, on one side, I may be demonstrating, if I may say, tough love, where I'm balancing compassion at the same time with accountability, right? So and especially, a lot of work today has gone hybrid. Often we are on video chats, and uh, maybe sometimes on in-person meetings. So by this shift, by this taking the team into a little element of playful surprise, you are moving from being a transactional boss and robotic boss to a much more relational and authentic boss. So my only message is: bring in the child in you, and you know how to crack jokes. You need to have those funny moments, maybe with your college folks, when you go out and have stack parties. So why can't you bring a slice of it in the meeting rooms, when you know it's perfectly sane and much more powerful to put posture you as a leader, as an authentic leader, as the person who can be easily accessed as somebody who's very human, right?
Mm.
So don't become too much on the nose just because it doesn't work. Don't lecture because it doesn't work, and especially with the generational diversity, it will not even work. But humor cuts across the generations, and I've seen, again, with no research to back my piece, but I'm sure the jokes that I do at times gets critiqued by my daughter or my younger colleagues, but they appreciate that there is a sense of
Mm.
smile before we all leaned forward before we moved forward. There's no sense of disengagement, because you drew the attention, you captured the attention, uh, and then you sort of sustain the engagement.
Mm.
So that's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah. No, thank you for this. This reminded me of when you mentioned it's a skill and then you can learn it, and leadership. It helps being a good leader. It reminded
Yeah.
me inside Professor John Piero's work, where he extensively researched on leadership. It's the leadership it's kind of not a position or a set of skills. It's actually a kind of love.
Yeah.
a relationship that makes us feel safe and free at once. I'm kind of connecting with this, like with humor as well. It's kind of like giving love as well. Like, you take the person as it is, and then you trying to bring them, basically
True.
show your show your level of love with being
Correct.
show as a humor. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what's resources or strategy would you recommend then for leaders if they want to learn this or develop their sense of humor to use this humor effectively?
Yeah, so I think I spoke a bit around that. One is understand those myths that
Yeah.
it is not serious business, and it's
Mm.
not about just being funny. You are not born with it, and all that stuff. Uh, Figure out, and this is working with maybe looking at some of the comedians, uh, and maybe studying about them also helps. Figure out your style. So what do you do in your meeting rooms? Are you too much on the nose? Are you on the aggressive side? And can you be a little more on the softer side of it? Are you too much articulate? Or are you the one-liner guys, right? So depending on that, you can create your own style, and then there are so many things. Just think about one thing before you enter the meeting room that may have happened in an earlier meeting, may have happened while you were en route to the office, or may have just happened with one more of your colleagues. Maybe you were just, you had no choice but to listen to somebody's phone calls who was trying to beat his sales numbers, and he or she was very loud. And you can come in and say, the top three excuses the sellers give on a quarter end. Number one, two, three. Where did I get it from? I get it from maybe Robert, who's my next door, next cubicle, out of it, right? So
Mm.
guys, can I get the four, five, six? Why are we meeting the number, not meeting the numbers? And maybe let's try to beat this up. One, two, three is already up in known, right? So I mean, you just got it from. So by just creating that mindset of sniffing those funny things, you create content, right? And then when you mix it up with your style and deliver in, maybe, if for example I'm a minimalist and I will use shorter sentences and more direct pieces, and say, hey, one, two, three left out, no choice. Four, five, six, what's in the room of not meeting the numbers, right? So here I began with humor, but then I'm getting a little more, using a little more. I earned the right to be authoritative with respect, with fun, by saying, hey, why are we not meeting the numbers? That was possibly the agenda of the meeting, right? So, and it's, if it's a skill, obviously the more you enjoy, you do it more. When you do it more, you do it better.
Yeah.
When you do it better, people appreciate. There are people who will come and say, Kaushik, I really liked your sense of humor. uh, I do have moderated some of the sessions. In fact, I got an opportunity to MC in the India Coaching Conclave Awards last year, and it was impromptu, and there were all of the guests from the ICF headquarters also that have come, right? And I didn't know much of them, but it just happened on the fly, and I could see people really enjoy it,
Mm.
and some were absolutely split with laughter. And then people came back and say, hey, where did you learn the art? And I said, no, hey, I'm a professional sales guy. I didn't invest in anything, it just happened to me, right? Now, because I have been always challenging myself to be putting up in those awkward spaces, including doing today's podcast. I had a choice to speak about something else also, but I just said, let me challenge myself and speak about it.
Mm.
And maybe by doing that, I'll also have a lot of clarity with the question that you are asking. I'm getting a lot of clarity, and I'm sure tomorrow's meeting will get enriched. Maybe some stories from here, which will get
Yeah.
sort of, translated into action. So that is the part of it. You enjoy the space, have that levity mindset. You do it more. When you do it more, you do it better. When you do it better, people appreciate. And when people appreciate, it's a human tendency. You again go back and enjoy more and do it more. So it's a, if I may call, a gracious cycle, which is
Mm.
an autopilot that runs in my
Yeah.
life. And I think that's what at some point of time, I feel it happens effortlessly, not because I have practiced. And if I would have been trained formally, I'm sure, I can possibly do much better than this. Maybe I'm in a wrong career. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, you never know. Sometime
Yeah,
next year or this year, we can say like Ankur did. In our Ankur is my friend who actually left his job and started his full time
yeah,
stand up
yeah.
comedy. Maybe you are the next.
I don't know. I always desire that to be up
Yeah,
on that stage someday.
yeah.
But let me see.
No,
Yeah,
no, it's good that, but at least it's helping us as leaders to in our day to day role as well. So cool. I think this is brilliant end to this podcast, and I appreciate Kaushik for taking your time, coming out here, and I know it's 7:30 in India at the moment, so quite late, but thank you very much,
no worries.
gratitude, and sharing your wisdom for us. I will be definitely looking into this, and enhancing my sense of humor, but the skills you mentioned I need to learn. So, but I will be reaching out to you for any help.
Absolutely, and through
Yeah,
through the podcast, and I'd welcome any of the viewers if they we just
yeah,
can have a freewheeling conversation.
sure.
And I just want to leave with this little one-liner saying that let's make this mindset of looking for the reasons to be delighted
Mm,
and delicious, and let's build this cheerful habit.
yeah,
We
yeah.
have studied enough on the power of positive psychology, and humor can be a great rejoinder to this.
Great,
Thank you
great.
so much, Rohit, for
No,
inviting me to this show. Thank
thank
you.
you, Koshi. Thank you. And if any of the listener wants to reach out to you, how they can reach out to you?
You have my email, and I can
Yeah,
repeat it. It's Koushik C, Koushikc @outlook.com.
cool. Thank you, Koshi. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode. Brilliant. We're gonna end it. Uh, I can't crack a joke, but have a good day. And we have a Easter holiday this weekend is a long weekend as well, and have a good summer. Summer starting soon. Before we go, please like, subscribe to this channel, and again, I want to thank Abhyuday Global Coach Circle for their support. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Stay safe. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.